Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there as we got combine time in the air. Yeah, I mean, it is glorious football, and football workouts are happening. Let's just see how many push-ups somebody can do. Let's see how far they can jump. Let us see them sling that pigskin all over that Indianapolis barn. I will say, not a fan of Indianapolis when I visited it, but it was very shocking to me because I'm not a Big Ten fan. So I was there for Big Ten Media Week. I kind of feel like I would dig the Combine. Although, the couple of Hurricanes aren't in the Combine. No Elijah Arroyo. Doesn't seem like Cam Ward is doing anything at the Combine either. And I got to tell you, I'm really rooting against this fodder that he is going to end up with the Jets. I think the first person I saw say that, though, was Nevin Shapiro. And I wouldn't just take what Nevin Shapiro says with a grain of salt. I would take it with every salt shaker there is on the earth. So hopefully that's not the case. I don't want a Santana Moss situation on my hands with Cam Ward, although I think wherever he goes, he is going to be amazing. But the big news today, there were a couple of things that were of note with the Dolphins, but I think the biggest thing was that the Dolphins are going forth as if they don't think Terron Armstead is going to come back. In fact, that is what Mike McDaniel said, is that they're going about their offseason as if Terron Armstead is not going to be with the team. And as of right now, we don't know. I mean, it's been interesting, hearing his comments this offseason. Didn't sound like somebody who was necessarily ready to hang it up, but obviously the Dolphins need to know, and they need to know what they're going to do, what their plans are, and how they are going to fix the most glaring thing on their team. Well, I guess it's arguable. Like, the most glaring thing on their team is Tua going to be able to stay healthy throughout a season, but second to that is protecting Tua and having an offensive line that could do so. And to be honest with you, I laughed my ass off last year when Chris Greer was saying ridiculous things like, we scoff at the idea that you guys have concerns about the offensive line. And I just am like, you don't say that publicly. That is a comment that only comes back to bite you in the ass. And one of the things that I actually find hilarious, doing the pregame show every single week is like, we always have to do this thing week to week where it's like, well, was the offensive line good enough? I would like to have just a year where this cannot be a topic. The Dolphins could just operate with an offensive line that maybe can get through a season for the most part, and this not always be a question mark. And I think with Terron Armstead, as amazing as he is, dude is a triceratops on the field. He is incredible at pushing people around. He is a mauler. He is tremendously talented. Seems like a really A-plus dude and a great leader. But even with him playing 15 games last year, even though he was his best at 70% of those, it just seems like a guy that just can't live up to the grind of the entire season anymore, which is understandable. He's gone through a lot of bumps and bruises, and that's like putting it the most mildly. Dealt with a concussion this year. Then there were games where his knees didn't function anymore. So he does this thing, according to NFL Network, where he has taken his salary all the way down to the minimum, which allows the Dolphins to get a wee bit more flexibility. Now, this was something that was reported after Mike McDaniel spoke to the media, but this was his update on Terron.
We've been in direct communication with Terron as recent as last week. And, one thing that Terron understands is from the organizational perspective, we have to operate in some way, shape, or form. And, I think with Terron reflecting his ability and all that, he's not totally ready to make that decision. As a result, I think we have to operate as though he won't play, just because you have to prepare for, things that you can't control. But I think he's going to take his time with his family and loved ones and make that decision, because it is not an easy one. But we will be operating as though, we are moving on in that way, simply for the execution of free agency and the draft.
So there you go. That was Mike McDaniel on the Terron Armstead situation. And yeah, obviously, because to be honest with you, it's almost like when you have Terron Armstead, you almost have to operate that way anyway. You know, he's that good, but it's that much of a wild card with his health, even in games. You had to have that. And the Dolphins spent a high draft pick last year in Patrick Paul as basically his replacement and trying to find a replacement and give him a year to redshirt under Terron Armstead. And it was interesting reading some of the comments from Patrick Paul at the what was it? Was the F1? Was it F1? No, I'm sorry. It was the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. Excuse me. They were doing their and he spoke to some reporters, and just based on the comments from a guy like him, it seemed like two things. One, he has no interest in going into guard. He said that he's a tackle, and it didn't even feel like he was too keen on being groomed by Terron Armstead anymore. Somebody had said, I think this is from Dave Veronis, a reporter noted to Paul, let me just make sure. Yeah. Who wrote this? Yeah, Dave Veronis. Okay. A reporter noted to Paul that other tackles have effectively converted to guard where the Dolphins have had more of an opening. He says, I'm just a tackle. Some people are interchangeable at positions, but implying that he's not. And then when he was asked about if he could see the value in Armstead returning, he just responded, yeah. So I don't know. If I'm him and I'm going into year 2, I'm like, yeah, I hope I get my shot at the starting job. Obviously, you want to play. You want to get your career rolling. You had a training wheels season. Dude is a moose, and hopefully it all works out for him. They tried him at times last year. Didn't go fantastic. So, of course the Dolphins want to go in that direction, I would think. And from the standpoint of Terron, like, yes, it's great that he's done the solid of the Dolphins where it's just like, I'll see ya. And maybe his thought process of all of it is like, if the Dolphins make some moves and he can truly contend, then maybe okay, he'll come back. Maybe he sees another opportunity that he likes and he asks the Dolphins, to let him go. I'm not sure, but I almost think it's healthier for the Dolphins to be in a post-Terron Armstead world just because of the mystery that always hangs over him. His playing future, his, health week to week, practice during the week, all of that stuff. And if the Dolphins have that clarity, I think they'll actually be in an okay place because this offensive line, not to go Chris Greer on everybody, but I actually don't think, pending Patrick Paul being decent, which I guess is a big if, but pending Patrick Paul being decent, I don't think it's going to be that overwhelming of a task. And the reason I have some faith in it is, one, you're going to get Austin Jackson back, and there was very much a palpable difference in the drop-off from the team when that guy got hurt. From the difference that they were when he was healthy to the difference that they were after his injury, it was palpable and noticeable. I think I'm being redundant there. How much of a drop-off there was from the offensive line. So there's that. 2, Liam Eichenberg's gone. One of the keyest, clearest addition by subtractions we'll ever see. Like, there's no doubt. Get him out of there. You'll be better off. Get somebody polished, somebody who actually is going to stay on his 2 feet and not break orbital bones of teammates. Good riddance. Like, that's going to put the Dolphins in a bigger spot. Then from the standpoint of, okay, could the Dolphins fix this in free agency? Well, Mike McDaniel kind of hinted at that. He's like, yeah, we're looking to address this, and he mentioned doing it in free agency. And I do think that makes all the sense in the world for them. I don't necessarily know if spending the 13th pick on an offensive lineman is the most prudent thing to do when you still have a lot of other needs on the other side of the football. And you're talking about, like, you're going to be in this position where there's probably going to be somebody or multiple teams at least trading up to get a couple of quarterbacks or maybe taking a couple of quarterbacks. So you're going to get somebody, I guess essentially you're on a fringe top 10 talent there at that position. Do you really want to waste that on a guard? And I know that was, I think Mel Kiper today in his 2.0 had the Dolphins taking the offensive lineman from Missouri who could do both. Which cool. I mean, like, look, I think if you're the Dolphins and you're a Dolphins fan, you're going to sit here and you're going to be like, you're not going to boo the pick. Like, you're not going to be upset with the pick because it's obviously a need. We all understand the Dolphins need to fix their offensive line, but is that the method you go about doing it? Because if you take a guard at 13, that dude better be like an all-pro. And that just has to be that. So we'll end up seeing where they're at with that, but I don't know. I'd be surprised if they go that unless it just is like, nah, there's no way this dude misses. We're basically getting a rhinoceros with shoulder pads on. It's going to be amazing. But this was Mike McDaniel and the investment they're going to do on the line.
I'm excited because I think we have a tangible opportunity to improve, and that starts in free agency with a couple of guys that we have targeted that you think that you can get a deal done with them, and that continues into the draft. I think this is it's a very good time to have some need, and we have. It's time for us to invest in that position. Excited to, and that can come. I would expect it to surface itself in both free agency and the draft.
I actually have faith that Mike McDaniel could figure the guard thing out because he did fix the center thing twice, right? Like Connor Williams wasn't a center. They bring him in here to be a center. Worked out well. Guy was a really good player for the Dolphins. Same thing happened with Aaron Brewer. And that was a guy that a lot of, people in Titans fan base were like, good riddance, kick rocks. And he did a nice job in this offense last year. I actually have faith that Mike McDaniel can identify those guys on the inside. This last couple, they had Rob Hunt. Rob Hunt was a good player for the Miami Dolphins. Got a boatload of money from the Carolina Panthers. And then they're like, all right, I guess we'll stick with Larkenberg. And you're just like in this position where you had to keep on shifting things around. And then obviously Williams dealt with his health thing. And then Larkenberg got to be a center. And you guys know the whole deal and the rundown of it, right? But he has shown an ability to find linemen. It's not like he's not been able to identify any free agents that he wants to go get. So let's hope. And I guess you put Armstead in that case too. It's just you knew what the baggage was going to come with him. And I think that's the thing is you look if there's a stud lineman out there that's in free agency, there's probably some red flag on him. Like there's probably something that they're going to have to be like, all right, either it's injuries or something that you do have to take into account when bringing them in. But I do think Mike McDaniel has shown an ability to identify the guys that'll work in his offense. Now that the guys that you're really the bigger questions is for me going into this year, are we really going to do the Terron Armstead dance again? And I think it's probably best to just go in a different direction just because, not because he's not awesome, just because you're just playing with fire with those knees. And then getting Liam Eichenberg the hell off the team. And I think if they're in that position, you're already out in front. You have your, and then on all of that, all of it pending Patrick Paul being a good player. Like that's the other thing is like, all right, well, hopefully this guy and this giant kid can handle the responsibility of stepping in for an all-pro. And if that's the case, if you could have that, getting your right tackle back, you have your center figured out. All right, you got free agent guards that you've already targeted. Maybe one of them then, and then maybe one of them sometime in the draft. That's not the first round. I think the Dolphins could be okay here. I really do. I not going to, put it up as a slam dunk because we've been doing this dance forever. I'm so sick about talking about the Dolphins offensive line. But here we are. And hopefully this is an issue that can possibly be put to bed for a year if some things fall the right way. And I think that the Dolphins getting clarity on Terron and moving on from 74 is a good start. It's a good start. And I'm going to try and be optimistic about it. I don't want any gloating from Mike McDaniel and certainly not from Chris Greer. So if they could just mind themselves, chill, keep it easy, then maybe they can actually get back and solve this thing. We could stop banging our heads against the wall with it.